the United States-Canada border, over 5,000 miles long, usually a symbol of friendship and cooperation. But lately, it's become a battleground. And I'm not talking about ice hockey, this is a trade war. For decades, the United States and Canada have been the best of friends, trading partners, and allies. But things have gotten frosty. Tariffs, those taxes on imported goods, are at the heart of it. They're like economic weapons designed to protect domestic industries. But honestly, they often backfire, hurting consumers and businesses on both sides. This trade war is about more than just dollars and cents. It's about trust, fairness, and the future of a vital relationship. And it's affecting real people in very real ways. We're talking about farmers losing their farms, businesses shutting down, and families struggling to make ends meet. The United States and Canada share the longest undefended border in the world, stretching for thousands of miles across forests, lakes, and prairies. We're more than just neighbors. We're family, connected by history, culture, and countless personal ties. We've fought side by side in wars, cheered for each other's athletes, and built a thriving economic partnership that has benefited both nations. But you wouldn't know it by looking at the border these days, where things have changed dramatically. For generations, goods have flowed freely between our two countries, fueling prosperity on both sides. Canadian lumber built American homes, shaping neighborhoods and skylines. American cars filled Canadian streets, becoming a familiar sight in cities and towns. It was a mutually beneficial relationship, fostering growth and opportunity for millions. But the trade war has thrown a wrench into the works, straining what was once a smooth partnership. Tariffs have disrupted supply chains, increased prices for consumers, and created uncertainty for businesses on both sides of the border. The once seamless border now resembles a tangled web of red tape and restrictions, slowing everything down. The question is, how did we get here, and what does the future hold for friends and neighbors divided by trade? The current trade tensions between the United States and Canada can be traced directly back to the Trump administration's America First trade policy, which marked a dramatic shift in the way the U.S. approached its closest trading partners. This policy was not just a slogan, it was a fundamental change in attitude that put American interests above all else, even if it meant ruffling feathers with long-standing allies like Canada. The stated goal was to protect American jobs and industries, especially in regions hit hard by globalization and automation. However, the approach was aggressive to say the least, and it sent shockwaves through the interconnected economies of North America. Many American workers hoped these policies would bring back lost jobs, but the reality was far more complicated. Tariffs were slapped on Canadian steel and aluminum, industries that had long enjoyed free trade across the border. The U.S. administration also threatened to target the vital auto industry, raising fears of even broader economic fallout. Canada, caught off guard by the sudden and aggressive posture of its closest ally, refused to back down. The Canadian government quickly realized that compromise might be seen as weakness, and public opinion demanded a strong response. Prime Minister Justin Trudeau stepped into the spotlight, vowing to defend Canadian interests at all costs. He called the tariffs unjust and unacceptable, promising Canadian workers that their livelihoods would not be sacrificed without a fight. In response, Canada imposed retaliatory tariffs of its own, targeting iconic American goods like ketchup, bourbon, and playing cards. These measures were carefully chosen to send a message to both American politicians and consumers, while also rallying Canadian national pride. The back and forth of tariffs and counter-tariffs has created a climate of uncertainty and mistrust that lingers to this day. Small businesses, manufacturers, and workers on both sides of the border have felt the impact, with some forced to close their doors or lay off employees. Now businesses in both the United States and Canada are left wondering what the future holds. Many are struggling to plan ahead, unsure if the next round of negotiations will bring relief or more disruption. But the trade war is about more than just economics. It's also about national pride, sovereignty, and the delicate balance of friendship and rivalry that has always defined the relationship between these two neighbors. As both countries look to the future, the lessons of this trade dispute will shape their partnership for years to come. Here's where things get really interesting. Alaska, often seen as remote and isolated, is actually at the very heart of this international dispute. Alaska, that vast and beautiful state, is on the front lines of this trade war. Its unique position means it feels the impact of every policy change and tariff more than almost anywhere else in the U.S. Why? Because Alaska relies heavily on trade with Canada. The two economies are deeply intertwined, with goods, services, and people moving across the border every single day. In fact, Canada is Alaska's largest trading partner. billions of dollars in goods are exchanged annually, supporting thousands of jobs on both sides of the border. Think about it. Alaska is geographically closer to the rest of Canada than it is to the contiguous United States. This proximity has shaped its economy, culture, and daily life. Goods flow back and forth across the border every day, from raw materials to finished products, keeping shelves stocked and businesses running. Canadian lumber is used to build Alaskan homes, schools, and businesses, making it a crucial resource for local construction. Alaskan seafood, prized for its quality, is enjoyed on Canadian dinner tables, featured in restaurants from Vancouver to Toronto. And let's not forget tourism. The border is a gateway for adventure seekers and nature lovers from both countries. Canadians flock to Alaska to experience its natural wonders, from towering glaciers to incredible wildlife, fueling a vital part of the state's economy. But now, the trade war has thrown a wrench into this vital relationship. Tensions and uncertainty have made cross-border cooperation more difficult. Tariffs have increased the cost of goods and services, hurting both Alaskan consumers and businesses. Everyday essentials are harder to find and more expensive. The tourism industry has also taken a hit, as Canadians think twice about vacationing in a country that seems to be turning its back on them. For many Alaskans, the effects of this trade war are felt not just in their wallets, but in their way of life. Canada's response to the US tariffs has been measured, but firm. Instead of a blanket response, Canadian provinces have targeted specific American goods and industries. It's a strategic approach, designed to inflict maximum political pain. Take British Columbia, for example. The province has proposed imposing tolls on American trucks crossing the border. It's a bold move, one that could snarl traffic and disrupt supply chains. Then there's Yukon, the territory known for its stunning scenery and gold rush history. They're considering banning American athletes from competing in local sporting events. And let's not forget Ontario, Canada's most populous province. They've imposed surcharges on electricity exported to the United States. These are just a few examples of how Canada is fighting back against what it sees as unfair trade practices. The message is clear: Canada will not be bullied. For Alaskans, the trade war is personal. It's about more than just numbers on a balance sheet. It's about their livelihoods, their communities, and their way of life. The tariffs are hitting Alaskans where it hurts most, their wallets. The cost of building materials has skyrocketed, making it more expensive to build or renovate homes. Canadian lumber, once a staple of the Alaskan construction industry, is now subject to a 20% tariff. That cost is being passed on to consumers, making homeownership more unattainable for many. Small businesses are also feeling the pinch. Many rely on Canadian suppliers for goods and services. The tariffs have forced them to raise prices, making it harder to compete. Some businesses have been forced to lay off workers or close their doors altogether. The trade war is casting a long shadow over the Alaskan economy. The trade war has strained relations between the US and Canada, casting a shadow over what has long been one of the world's closest partnerships. Decades of cooperation and mutual respect are now being tested by tariffs, political posturing, and economic uncertainty. But despite the tension, it's not too late to repair the damage and restore trust between these two neighbors. Both sides have a vested interest in finding a solution, not just for the sake of their economies, but for the millions of people whose lives and livelihoods depend on cross-border trade and collaboration. The first step is to tone down the rhetoric and focus on constructive dialogue. Cooler heads must prevail if progress is to be made. The heated language and threats of retaliation are only making things worse, fueling mistrust and making compromise more difficult. Both governments need to recognize that escalation benefits no one. Next, both sides need to come to the negotiating table with a genuine willingness to compromise and listen. Real progress will require empathy, patience, and a shared commitment to finding common ground. The US needs to acknowledge that its tariffs are hurting its closest ally, causing real pain for workers, businesses, and families on both sides of the border. Recognizing this impact is the first step toward meaningful change. Canada, in turn, needs to be willing to address US concerns about trade imbalances and market access. Open and honest communication is essential for building trust and finding solutions that work for everyone. There are glimmers of hope, moments when both sides have shown a willingness to listen and cooperate. These small steps can pave the way for bigger breakthroughs. Negotiations are ongoing, and both sides have expressed a desire to reach a deal that benefits their citizens and strengthens their partnership for the future. In the meantime, businesses and communities are doing their best to adapt to the new reality. They're facing challenges head-on, finding ways to keep goods moving and people employed. They're finding creative ways to source goods and services, building new supply chains, and working together to weather the storm. Their resilience is a testament to the strength of the US-Canada relationship. The hope is that this trade war will be a wake-up call, a reminder that cooperation, not confrontation, is the best way forward. When neighbors work together, both sides prosper. After all, we're not just trading partners, we're neighbors, partners, and friends bound by history, geography, and shared values. And that's a bond worth fighting for, a friendship that, with effort and goodwill, can not only be saved, but made even stronger for generations to come.